All right, hey folks, this is Andrew Cummings here with another missionary. I was going to say Missionary Monday Live, but I've pretty much given up the idea of doing these on Mondays, just because Mondays, for some reason, tend to be just really crazy. And so I'm going to keep trying to do them weekly, but I'm just going to do them whenever. I'm going to call a Missionary Moment. You'll still be able to find them on my YouTube page under Missionary Mondays, because I'm not going to go and redo that whole thing. And so I guess officially they'll be called Missionary Mondays, but I'm not going to limit myself to Mondays because I have just been terrible at having Mondays free to do these things. So it's Tuesday, so we're going to just call this a missionary moment. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff here. We're going to get to talking about the trucker strike and all the stuff that's been going on here in Brazil, all the craziness that's been going on here in Brazil for that. But first, I want to just let's go down through just some news with stuff that's been going on here in the mission field in our ministry. And so I'm going to try to put some links down here underneath the video on Facebook. So if you're watching this on Facebook, seeing this on Facebook Live, then underneath I'm going to talk about some things and throw some links. So the first thing I want to talk about is our kids club at Ebenezer. Ebenezer's our church. The kids club is a new ministry that we started, and it's actually a ministry of our associate pastor Francivaldo. We gave him that ball; he's taken that ball and run with it. And so this is. I want to just give you guys some background for. Ever since we began the Ebenezer project, we've been asking you to pray for Francivaldo because he's been at the seminary, and so as many of you have prayed for him, some contributed to him in his studies there at the seminary. 4 years at the seminary, he came back to San Luis, and in fact, I told him when he went to seminary, I said, if you even think about leaving after you graduate seminary and going somewhere else, I'm going to come down there in my car with some duct tape and tape up your ankles and your arms and throw you in the trunk and bring you back to San Luis. So I think he took that to heart, and as soon as he graduated, he made a beeline back here at San Luis, and he's been with us for a little over a year now. And then we've been asking prayer for the renovation of our pastoral apartment at our church building. That was so he could move in. That has been done. He has moved in, and now he's just been a bundle of energy since he moved in. We handed him something we've been wanting to do for a long time, which is a Saturday kids club. He took that and he's got that running, and I'm going to put here underneath this video, if Facebook will let me do this. There we go. So that link there should take you to a thing about the kids club. So and then another thing we've got going on is our camp construction, and that is going really well. In fact, we've received some donations, and so that has picked up a lot. And so I'm going to throw another link. This link that I'm throwing under here is for our camp ministry or the camp construction project, and you can see that we have still some needs, some very interesting projects coming up. We've set aside an area for a soccer field, which is essential for Brazilian camp, soccer field. And so if you're interested in participating in that, let us know. But money has come in, hopefully, for us to be able to finish up the pavilion and bathroom projects. So we're very excited about that. We were supposed to be going out day after tomorrow, Thursday, with a group of guys from the area to work on the swimming hole, get the swimming hole all dug out and everything. That's what we were supposed to do. That did not work because of the trucker strike. Now, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about the trucker strike, and so you'll be able to you'll be able to kind of get an idea of what's going on there. But because of the disruption of that, the guys that were going to go out, we got together and said, you know what, it's probably not going to be viable to go out. We'll wait till when things have calmed down. We'll wait and do that. So, but next Monday and Tuesday, probably I'm going to be out there at the camp to get some things taken care of there. So, and also going back to the church, I mentioned the parsonage, and I've got some pictures here I'm going to put up here also. There we go. Ba-ba. And that is the parsonage. We have been asking for your prayers for the renovation of the parsonage, so Pastor Francivaldo could move in. And the parsonage has been renovated, and he has moved in. You can see pictures of that there as well. So we're very, very excited about that. A couple projects we have coming up. We have the big one coming up, the big daddy of them all, in July. We've got Music Week coming up. We've got a team, Kathy Knowles, a friend of ours from one of our supporting churches, actually the church where I grew up, Tuscarora Baptist Church, one of the churches where I grew up. She's going to be coming down and with a team of musicians, and we're going to be putting on a Music Week to train the people, young people in our churches, and not just our churches, but several other churches are participating also. Train people to better to lift up the quality of the music that we have here, to better worship and praise the Lord. Just give Him the best we have, and kind of stretch that best that we have a bit. Vocal lessons and instrumental. So I'm very excited about this, but this is also a lot of work. So we'd appreciate your prayers. I don't have a thing about that, a page about that. Also, this is very cool, and I'm going to put, this is just a family thing before we get into the whole trucker strike story here. This is a family thing. My son, many of you know, my son is into astronomy, my son Michael. And he has a telescope, and some friends of ours that came from the U.S., Pastor Brian and Judy King from West Windsor, they brought down a telescope for him. And he has been... He's frustrated because it's rainy season, and so a lot of nights it's cloudy. But any night that it's not cloudy, he's out there taking pictures. And you go on his Facebook page, and you can see this. And one thing that he's always wanted to do, and we've been trying to do this, is to get a picture of a video of the International Space Station going in front of the moon. It's kind of an event here. Anytime that we know the International Space Station is going to be going over, we all go out and watch it, and so on. But at one point he said, well, wouldn't it be cool to get a picture of that International Space Station going in front of the moon? Well, to do that, you have to be in the right place at the right time. And so we tried a couple times. One of them was 2 in the morning, out in the middle of a bridge towards the center of town. Completely, everything's abandoned at 2 in the morning. And we're out there with myself, Michael, a couple of friends of ours, and we're out there with a telescope. And just as this International Space Station was about to go across, a big cloud came in front of it. And so we've had a couple abortive efforts like that. But praise God, this last time, Michael, I was actually busy away. I forget what I was doing, but I was away, and Michael was by himself. And Michael got this beautiful picture, and I'm going to put this up here because he got pictures, and so you click on that, and it'll go to the things Michael did there with that, and you have to watch quick because the International Space Station, when it goes across, it goes choom, just like that. So you have to watch, but you can see it go across, and it's just really neat. He also took a picture of it in stages, so you can see it going across in stages. He made a conglomerate picture, so that was very cool. So anyway. The news that's on everybody's mind is the trucker strike, and so I wrote a couple posts about that, and I'm going to put those here so you can kind of catch up when you want. The first one's called "Keep on Striking." It's, I don't know if you get that. It's from "Keep on Truckin." Anyway. If you're not a child of the '70s, and also and then this update here, and I'll throw that there. You can read at your leisure. So I'll kind of give a little background on here. Basically, what's going on? Some background, quick background. I've explained this to a few people who I've talked to on Skype and so on. First thing you need to understand: Brazil has a gas company. An oil extraction company called Petrobras, and it's a state-run company. Now, someone will say, "Well, technically, it's not. It has private investment too." Yeah, but the majority holders is the Brazilian government, and so the Brazilian government calls all the shots in this company. So it is effectively a state-run company. And this state-run company, it gets used as a cash cow. So they don't throw a lot of money, and I'm simplifying things here. Understand, go and Google this stuff if you want to get in depth, but they don't throw a lot of money into development. They've done more of that over the last few years, but still not a lot of money into development. So, for example, Brazil does not have refineries, many refineries. So they can't, the oil that they pull out of their offshore wells, which is a lot, then they then have to send overseas to be refined and then buy back. So it's not that great a deal. And also, because it's a state-run company, and it has been very profitable, or has the potential to be very profitable, but it gets used as a cash cow by the government and as a personal ATM by corrupt politicians. And many of you may have seen reports, because this has made international news, you may have seen reports about a huge corruption scandal that has rocked Brazil on every single level of government. And one of the former presidents, 2 presidents ago, Lula, is actually in jail right now because of this. It's called the Lava Jato, or in English, the car wash, because that's where the first, it was a car wash being used as a front business. That was the first inklings they had of this massive corruption scheme, and so it had that name. But it showed how it centers around Petrobras, the oil extraction company, and how that has been used as a personal ATM machine and a huge corruption scheme for Brazilian politicians at all levels and for many different parties. So that's the background. Now, in order to keep this company solvent, they've tried a few different things. The most recent thing they've done was they've tagged oil prices, the rise in oil prices, to the international markets. Now, that's kind of an artificial thing. There is no competition here in Brazil that's going to make the market fluctuate, and so they tag it to the international market where there's the competition. And in the last several months, the price in oil internationally has been going up. So there's that. Not only that, but like I said, this Petrobras is used to fund social programs here in Brazil. By social programs, I mean programs where that give money for social things. It's kind of like a welfare. Several different programs that amount basically to what in the United States we know as welfare. And I'm not going to get into explaining all those programs. We'd be here all night. But basically giving money to people who meet certain social characteristics. That's what these programs are. And so there are hefty taxes on that gas. So to give you an idea, I actually looked this up on the internet, and when you convert everything to dollars per gallon, Brazilians, as of the 21st, which was before this whole trucker thing happened, now it's more, but before this whole trucker thing happened, the trucker strike, Brazilians were paying $1, a little over $1 more per gallon in gas than you are in the United States, those of you who are watching from the United States. So they were paying $1 more, actually more than $1 more per gallon in gas. A good part of this being taxes, and the taxes are high, and it's steadily going up. In the meantime, the Brazilian infrastructure over the past several months has been crumbling, and so Brazilians are driving on increasingly worse roads. The price of fuel is going up, and one thing that affects truckers going through the taxes that they pay when they cross state lines, when they go through toll booths, have been consistently going up. So I was talking with a guy who knows the trucking industry, and he basically put it this way. He said a trucker, like when he goes from the state of Bahia to São Paulo, which is basically a cross country trip. It's a long haul. He says when you're going from Bahia to São Paulo, he says you start out, and I'm going to put this in U.S. dollar amounts. You start out with around $10,000, maybe a little less, but 10,000. We'll just use that amount, $10,000 that you're given. That's your price. That's what you're going to get paid to haul the goods from Bahia to São Paulo. After you've put gas in your vehicle, and at the end of your road, at the end of your line, you end up with $300. That's taking his amounts that he gave me and transferring them into dollars. So that is a huge overhead. And that long trip, for you to end up with $300 after that long haul trip is crazy. And so that's what and these continued rising prices of diesel, because diesel has risen along with gasoline, The truckers finally got fed up with it, and they said, "We're done." And they basically all just pulled off the side of the road and said, "You guys need to do something about this gas situation." And their geisha, their complaint, their specific complaint was the taxes. And so the government hemmed and hawed, and on Sunday night, the president officially got up and said that they were going to at least temporarily rescind those taxes. Now that is just on diesel. And here's the other thing: the Brazilian population, which was most affected. I mean, we were the ones. The Brazilians are the ones waiting in mile-long gas lines. The Brazilians are one having to stock up food. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our situation here in a bit, but I'm talking overall nationwide, and especially in the big cities. The Brazilians were the ones having their flights canceled, and then all of this other inconveniences related to the strike. And in spite of all that, the support for what the truckers was doing is overwhelming. Why? It's because the Brazilian populace identified what the truckers were doing with their own personal daily lives, which are affected every day by exorbitant taxes. I'll explain about how this works here in Brazil. Brazil, for example, one of the things when my wife went to the United States, one of the things that surprised her was like when we go to McDonald's, and McDonald's, she sees a hamburger that's $3, and so she expects to pay $3, but we know that it's not $3. It's going to be, depending on where you live, $3.21 or $3.24, whatever the sale. Okay, we're back. My internet had cut out there, but hopefully we're back. So there's this huge sale tax, and to give you an example, if I have a friend who bought a watch. This watch is advertised in the United States for $40. Okay, he paid close to $200 US dollars for that watch here. Why? Because of the huge markup on importation. It's a tax, and it's not. You don't see it in the price. So you look at that and you say this watch costs this much. Automobiles. If you pay basically double the price here for a car, a comparable car here in Brazil than what you're going to pay in the United States. And why is this? Well, the leftists that have been in power and the leftist governments have liked to say, oh, it's the evil corporations. Well, the evil corporations are getting kind of sick of this, and so what have they started doing? They've started putting on their receipts how much people are actually paying in taxes, because it's not on the price. So they put it in the receipts, how much people are paying in taxes. So when I go and buy groceries, and I get the receipt for those groceries, it says underneath, you have paid this much in taxes. And it's huge. It's a huge amount. If I had planned ahead, I'd have brought it and showed it to you. To buy a car, you're basically, I've seen the math on this, and several of the stores actually, some people are actually putting this on their, dealerships are actually putting this on there, saying it's not us guys. You're pretty much buying a car for you and a car for the government, basically. Not only that, but here they've set up all kinds of speed traps that are obviously set up to encourage fines, and they're exorbitant fines. I mean, huge fines. Not only that, but to pay, for instance, I paid this year a little over $200 tax. It's called the IPVA tax, just to own my car. I paid that amount in taxes. And so Brazil has, in fact, people have said that Brazil is one of the most highly taxed societies in the world. And they have all of these taxes, and yet when the Brazilians drive on their roads, they're driving on roads that are full of holes. When they go to the public hospitals, the state-owned and run hospitals, they're sleeping in beds and so you can see from all of this that the Brazilians see themselves as being tremendously overtaxed, and it's hard to argue that. It's hard to argue against that. They're just hammered with taxes, and they're not getting the return, and it's because of corruption, it's because of bad administration, and it's because government is basically inefficient at doing just about everything it does. So they're just taxed to death, and so they identified with these truckers, and the truckers became folk heroes. The truckers became national heroes, and the support for these guys was tremendous. Well, the government met the truckers' demand, and there was a telling interview that was done where a reporter got up and said, "You're meeting the truckers' demand, but what about the tax on regular gasoline that Brazilians have paid?" And the government official that was giving one of them that was giving the interview said, "Well, we just attended the truckers. There's no guarantees about any other sector of Brazilian society." So now the truckers' strike has been officially suspended. And I noticed a few trucks on the road today, and news reports are saying that some trucks are running. Some truckers are still striking. They're saying this wasn't nearly enough, and we're just one part of Brazilian society, but we represent a society that's completely overtaxed. And so they're excuse me, they're continuing their strike. And others, like the engineers of Petrobras, the gas company, they're threatening to go on strike tomorrow. I haven't heard an update on that, whether that's going to go through or not, but they're threatening that for tomorrow. So I'm not sure if we're out of the woods yet. Here in São Luís, we had our worst day was Friday and Saturday. Those were our worst 2 days where gas stations were running out of gas. There were the gas stations that had gas. There were mile-long lines. I tried to stop by a grocery store to get some stuff. I couldn't even get into the parking lot of the grocery store. It was so full. People were, and that spilled over. That spilled over to where the produce markets weren't getting their produce, and so like the other day I was at the little coffee shop I like to go to when I'm downtown. I'll eat lunch there sometimes, and I got an avocado smoothie, and the lady said this is our last avocado, because they didn't have it at the produce market where everyone goes to get their food. So that's the effect we've had here. Other places in Brazil, which are closer to the hubs and are closer to where things happening, like the city of São Paulo, the city of Brasília. Brasília canceled 40 flights. Other places canceled more. Some of the larger airports didn't cancel because they had bigger reserves, but they were getting low. Things are pretty tense. I have missionary friends who are just now posting. In fact, a colleague who lives in a small town in the state of Paraíba that has one gas station, and that gas station, he said, just has gas, just got a delivery of gas, and the line, he put a picture of the line is stretching around the block and as far as you can see. And so some guys, another friend of mine who lives in the city of Belém took a picture of a supermarket and it's just empty. That hasn't happened here. We've been spared the most traumatic things that's been going on, for which we're very grateful. I'm not upset about that in the least bit. But it did, like I said, it did cause us to cancel our workday at the camp, so we're not going to be traveling for that. And one thing that's happened is we were paying $3.90 some cents for a liter of gasoline, or 3 reais 90 some cents for a liter of gasoline. Now we're paying $4.10, $4.20, $4.30. I've even seen some gas stations at $4.50, and I'm very doubtful that when this thing calms down, it's going to go down. So it will have had the opposite effect for us. For the truckers, they got their reduction in taxes, but for us, it has to come from somewhere. So they're going to take it out of people have this idea that the government has this big slush fund of money and they can just hand out. No, it's got to come from somewhere, and the politicians are not going to get rid of their limos and their special treatment, at least not yet. Brazilians are getting extremely fed up about this. So, but what's going to happen? They're going to gouge another section of society to be able to make the truckers happy. So we'll see what's going on there. There's going to be a lot of things, and to put this all into perspective, this is an election year. And so the guy who's president now, who I put on my Facebook, he kind of, one of his problems is that he faces it. He kind of looks like a supervillain from a James Bond movie. He's there talking about the reduction in gas prices, and he looks like he just killed a kitten. I mean, that is what he looks like, and so that's a problem he has, and all the memes going out showing him as the villain from. What is it? Voldemort. I've never watched Harry Potter, but I think that's his name from the Harry Potter movies. He bears a resemblance to that guy, so that doesn't help him at all. But he won't be running for president. If he tried, it would be a disaster for him personally. I very much doubt that he'll be running for president. But there are some interesting people that are running for president. The former president, who's in jail for corruption, still has a huge popular support base among the left, and so he's going to be trying to run. His whole being in jail complicates that for him, logistically and legally. But if he can somehow dribble around that complication, he'll be a very formidable candidate, unbelievably, because it's his policies and even more the policies of his successor, which got us into this whole mess. That's one candidate. There's another guy. His name is Jair Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is called the Brazilian Trump. The similarities are that both of them pander to the right, and both of them kind of have the tendency to shoot off at the mouth and kind of eschew political correctness, which is, depending on where you fall, it's a good thing or a very bad thing. So he's the other candidate, and he's got a lot of the media. The media is trying to studiously ignore him. The Brazilian media, I think, learned a lesson from the American media, which gave Trump all kinds of free media time. And so the Brazilian media is trying to studiously ignore this guy, a good part of the media. However, he's got a huge following on the internet. And he's dribbling around the media blockade by using WhatsApp. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't get on my WhatsApp account. I don't get messages from people saying from friends of mine. It's supporting this guy and memes and all this kind of stuff. And my Facebook page gets flooded with things from this guy. So every day, I mean, this always happens. So there's a huge support. And the thing is, here's the thing. He is the only guy that is offering any kind of concrete solutions. Whether or not you think his solutions will work is immaterial. He's the only guy that's saying, I've got a solution to the problems that Brazilians are thinking about. And the problems that Brazilians are thinking about are the economy, basically the tax load that they're bearing, and rampant crime and corruption. Those are the three things Brazilians are thinking about. The rank and file Brazilians, the economy. In fact, I would put it in this order: corruption, crime, and taxes. Those are the three things from where I sit, from what I'm seeing, from people I'm talking to, and the buzz on the street. And the Brazilian media is trying to do the same thing that they've done that the U.S. media has done. There's anyone that doesn't agree with them, they say they're racist and homophobic and all this kind of stuff. And but it's very interesting because I have in our church I have people who are fairly well off and more of a light shade, more along my shade of skin. And these folks tend to lean left in their politics. And I have people who are from some of the poorer sections of town and who are very African in their heritage, and they are supporting the right-wing guy, Bolsonaro, because he's the only one that's supporting anything that they can see as any kind of solution to the violence that has overtaken their neighborhoods. And it's crazy. People are afraid to leave their house and walk to the drugstore and get drugs and come back. I mean, they live in literal fear of doing that kind of thing. And this guy's the only one coming up with solutions. And whether or not you agree with the solutions, he's the only one talking about it. So I keep telling my friends, especially my friends on the left, who are saying, "Oh, this guy, he's here." Yeah, I lived through 2016 in the United States, and I'm seeing similar patterns here. So this is going to be very interesting to follow what's happening and to see what goes on. Very interesting times to be in Brazil. I have one more link here, and that is I used to do this a lot on my website, and I kind of got away from it, but I'm going to start doing it again just because it helps me. It helps me to think about what I've been, think about what I've been reading and reflect and so on. I do quick book reviews, and so you can see those. Some of the things I've been reading, I just put the link up there. Some of the stuff I've been reading, and you can look at that for yourself and check it out and see what if any of it is interesting. And if you've read some interesting things, you can leave a comment. One thing that's changed on my website, two things that have changed. Number one, I've added, with the help of Chris Brown, who's my web guru, who's the guy who hosts our website and so on. He runs a ministry called Tech Ministry that does a lot. So this is a plug for him. He does really good work with churches and ministries for getting websites out there. I don't get anything to plug it. I've just used his ministry, and it's been very good for us. Anyway, I contacted him, wanted to make a couple changes, and he helped me out. So now we've got a social media button there. So if on anything on our website you feel like, hey, that's interesting, I'd like to share that with my friends, well, you can click and share it either on Twitter or on Facebook at the click of a mouse. And also, we've opened up the comments section. I was getting hit with a lot of spam before, so we closed it, but that's been fixed. So we opened it back up so you can leave comments right on the website. Or if you see it on Facebook, you can continue to leave comments on Facebook or not, or whatever. So that's where we are right now. I'll be praying for us. Like I said, the Ebenezer ministry is going well. Normal things that go on with the church, we have going on in our church, but things are moving forward, moving in the right direction. Church is growing, visitors coming all the time. And the camp ministry, like I said, we've got some links up there. If you just came in under this video, we've got some links that link up to some updates on that ministry. Lots of cool stuff going on there. Running ragged. If you want to pray, I've got an assignment. I was given an assignment by our publisher here in Brazil, our Regular Baptist Publishing House. For those of you who are familiar with Regular Baptist in the U.S., it's like the Brazilian version of the Regular Baptist Press. And to do some Sunday school material. So right now I'm working on the book on the life of Joseph, and it's killing me. Not because I don't like it, I love it. Not because I don't enjoy doing it. I really do enjoy doing it, but it's a lot of work, and I've got a lot on my plate already. But they really need this. So if you want to be praying, pray that I'll find the time and be able to get the time to take care of this. Pray for my boys. End of school's coming up. We're in the crunch to get their schoolwork done. So pray for that. And excuse me. Just keep praying for us in Brazil, because these are challenging times. We're going through a lot of the challenges that you go through in the States, and then some challenges that you don't go through in the States. So pray for that. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully these videos will be a little more regular from now on, and we'll be able to keep you up to date even better. If you're just catching the tail end of this video will be available on Facebook to watch in its entirety, and then I'll put it on YouTube and also on our website, andrewcummings.com, and so you can watch the whole thing there. Thanks for watching, and God bless, and we'll see you next time.